guys, it's Anthony. Welcome back to my channel. So Thanksgiving's tomorrow. So today I wanted to talk about types of dinner guests on Thanksgiving. So let's get started. First up, we have the boyfriend. So, when you're like so in love with your significant other and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to bring my boyfriend over for Thanksgiving dinner. I hope my family won't mind. And you gotta hope. You- Like, first of all, you have to both um people have to ask, their families, because if you just don't ask, they're gonna be like, hey, weren't you supposed to be here? Nah, I decided to go to my girlfriend's house. And like, you just gotta ask, because then know it, or at least tell someone. You don't just want to because you don't want to change plans last minute without telling anybody, because it's rude. And and you know the other end of the spectrum, you have the girlfriend, which is basically the same. So I'm not gonna keep bringing up relationship stuff on Thanksgiving. But Thanksgiving's supposed to be a time for love. It's not just a holiday where Thanksgiving's more than eating. You do know that, right? Next up, we have the early bird. Basically, they're like, show up at this specific time, and they show up way too early. Or maybe they said PM, but you heard AM, because some people get confused between AM and PM. Like, say you're telling somebody you need to be here by 5 p.m. They show up at 5 a.m. Like, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the late one. It's basically the same, except for they either show up, for example, say you need to be here 5 p.m. They either show up, or going back to the early bird, they could even show up at the same time the day before Thanksgiving, or they could show up an entire week before Thanksgiving, and they're like, what are you talking about? Thanksgiving's tomorrow. Thanksgiving's next week. Like, with the late one, they either show up, they could show up like 5 a.m. the next morning, or just 5 p.m. the next day or a week after Thanksgiving. And they're like, you were supposed to be here yesterday. I thought yesterday was Wednesday. No, yesterday was Thursday. Today's Friday. Like, next up, you have the helper. The helper. Basically, they're like, I can help out with this. I can help make that, until it gets to a point where they're just making the whole entire Thanksgiving dinner. Like, go and relax. I can do this myself. Until they end up doing everything. Next up, we have the food critic. This person believes that Thanksgiving's just about eating, and they pile up a bunch of food on their plate, and some of it they don't even eat. Like, like, just take as much, just like, take what you can eat. Like, you don't want to take too much, because then, like, you're gonna be like, I'm so full. Well, to avoid that, maybe get less food so you don't waste so much. Next up, we have the stressed host. So they're like, how many people are going to be here? How much do I have to cook? How much do I have to do? Calm down. Next up, we have the lazy guest. They don't want to do anything. They don't even want to sit at the table with the rest of the group. They just want to, like watch the football game on TV and like that's all they do. Next up, we have the sleeper. They fall asleep on the couch watching football, and then at the end, they're like, who won? Next up, we have the football watcher. So, on Thanksgiving, there are two football games. We usually watch, like, actually, no. I just don't like talking about sports because I feel like my opinions are always wrong. Because, like, there are people who claim they're always right. And then they find reasons why they're right and why the other person is wrong. But let's not talk about that. Next up, we have the food bringer. Basically, they're like, there's already food there. Or maybe you've just got a lazy host that's like, just bring your own food. I don't know how to cook. Like, is it really necessary to bring your own food? Next up, we have the beverage person. They just load up on like drinks and stuff, and then they're like, and don't drink too much, cause you're gonna have to go to the bathroom. I made a big mistake. Cause one time, I went to the movie. This has nothing to do with Thanksgiving, but one time I went to the movie theater and I literally had to go in the middle of the movie because I drank too much Powerade. And I just couldn't wait to. So just don't drink too much. Next up, we have the arguer. Basically, they just want to argue with everyone. And then And it's even worse when they find reasons why other people are wrong. You know? Like, I'm always right and you're always wrong. Nobody's always right. Nobody's perfect. Next up, we have the um. Next up, we have the historian. Is what I'm going to say. Is what I was gonna say. Basically, they just talk about like the origins of Thanksgiving and all that. Like do normal things. Like, why can't you just go around the table and like say what they're thankful for? You don't have to be like, well, Thanksgiving started in no, because nobody's gonna want to hear that, especially kids. Kids are not gonna want to hear about like history and all that. Next up, we have the talker. Basically, they just want to like socialize, and that's great, but like but I just don't talk to people much. That's because nobody likes me. So, what's the point in talking to someone who doesn't like you? Like,